wonderful world.
I need to rearrange a little furniture. I thought about rolling the big one over here. It actually would suit the purpose better, but in a certain way. Now that I have your attention, we're really gonna plant this thing. Plant you later. Well, at least some people need. One person out there laughing, you know, you get that. All right, so, are you wondering why there's a plant there? I hope so. I'm gonna tell you, I may have trouble finding all my packages here. I've got, this lady made a bookmark set for me when I was probably about 16, 17 years old. You know, your Bible tends to have like the one bookmark. And I had this little country church I would go. I started leading singing there. This guy named Dexter Sanders. I'll just back up and tell you the whole story. It'll be a little easier. There's a man named Dexter Salmons. He taught my history class in high school. He was amazingly strict in school. He also went to my church, and I became very close friends with his daughter. She was a couple years younger than I. And through that friendship and that relationship with that family, I got to know him a little bit better. Inside school, he actually reminded me a lot of myself when I teach now. I'm sort of no nonsense, you know, don't fool around when I give you something to do. And then outside of school, he was kind of a clown. You know, he was funny, had a sense of humor, very nice. And he would go preach at these small churches too. So what he did is on Sunday mornings, I would go to Bible class at my regular church with my family, and then he would take me from Bible class and we would drive down the road a little ways to Austin, Texas, and there's a little small country church. Think about this building, but shrink it down a little bit. No classrooms in the back, just a set of doors that they would prop open because it's Texas and the heat. You know, sometimes they kick the windows open. They had the little funeral home fans that you get when you go to funerals. They had those in the pews, so you know you could fan yourself and you were also ready to go. You know, with a fan. And sometimes the neighborhood dog, because it's out in the middle of the farmland, would come and he would worship with us. But my job, when I would go with Dexter, was to lead singing. And it was a terrifying experience. You know, because I was 13, 14 years old, I was terrible, guys. I can tell you, I'm not a song leader, not a great song leader. And he would take me and work me and get me doing that. And it just got me used to being up in front of people. I'm still terrified to be up in front of people. It makes me a little bit nervous, but you know, I get over it. You know, I don't stutter as much, but on the inside, I'm running like a rabbit. You know, especially before I get up here. Once I get up here and start talking, I'm okay. I'm in my element. I can talk about things. I might not make any points, but so, you know, anyway, going back to this, I was leading singing in little country churches, and then eventually there was times when Dexter was either sick or he couldn't be there, and so they would ask me to preach. And so I'd get up there and I would do my lesson. Well, I got there one day And I was trying to find all my passages. You know, I've written them down on a piece of paper. When you're nervous and you're fumbling through your Bible, you guys that have been up here, that or if you've been up in front of people at all, and you're trying to look something up, and you feel pressured, and your hand is doing this thing, and you can't, you know. And so I was having trouble finding my passages, and there was this lady, her name was Connie Howard. There are two things that I really can remember Connie for. I mean, she was a very, very nice lady, but she made the best plum jelly ever. They would go out and pick the wild plums, and they would make jam out of that, and it was delicious. She also made a bookmark for me. It's basically this, it looked like a shoehorn kind of thing. You could slide it back in between the backing of your Bible and the leather in the paper, the pages. You slide it in there, and it's got all these nice bookmark strips on it. So I've got like, 7 or 8 bookmarks. So I just don't know where they go. I mean, they're all in there, right? And I've been using that for years. And it's nice because it will transfer from one Bible to another. I've had that since I was probably 14 years old. And it hasn't worn out. She did a quality job when she made that. She was a real crafty kind of person. She could make things. And just some people can do that. I would have never thought to make something where you can have all those bookmarks. And I've never seen anyone else with anything like that. So it's kind of unique. So you say, well, what on earth does that have to do with a plant out here in the front? Well, let's think about this plant for a minute, because when I see that, I remember coming. I remember what she did for me. This plant, this stand. Look at the plant for a minute. It's beautiful. It's pretty. It's got the leaves. It's got the flowers. It's got soil in here. It's on a stand. Okay? The stand is part of a point. It's got this ornate design on it at the bottom. Anybody know what this thing is right here? If you can see that, you got any idea? Is it like a pine cone? It kind of looks like a pine cone to me, maybe. What about this symbol over here? What about that one? Does that mean anything?
Absolutely, it's a symbol of the cross.
It's a cross, right? And this looks like, made to look like what?
Gold.
Gold. Okay? Now, it's a symbol of something. It makes an impression on us. We see it, we know exactly what it is. There's no doubt in our mind what this is about. And it's a very powerful image. When you think about Solomon and building of the temple, this is where we get into the scripture here. What we've been doing in Bible class, we talked about this quite a bit. The temple that Solomon has constructed and he has a guy named Hiram who he hires to do the bronze work. And Hiram is a Phoenician. There's really an interesting thing about these Phoenicians is they were known craftsmen. So if you were like super rich, like Solomon, and you're a king, remember David hired Hiram before to build his palace. And David has died and Solomon has become king. And one of the first things Solomon wants to do is he wants to get started on this construction of the temple. And there's a lot of detail in that. And Hiram is again hired to come back with his people and do the bronze work for the temple and the design of things. Okay? So we're going to get into a little detail here that when Hiram does this, the Phoenicians didn't just build for one temple. They built other temples in other parts of the world. The Temple of Hercules that Josephus goes and sees, that's Hiram and his people. built that. It wasn't called the Temple of Hercules at that time. There was another god that they built it for, but later it becomes the Temple of Hercules. I think that's the name of it. But there's a lot of similarities in between some of the design, in particular the pillars. Okay, because artists, do they recreate the wheel when they don't have to? No. So, but Hiram is brought in to build the bronze work in the temple. Now, bear with me for just a minute, because I put this thing up here for a reason. All right, not just to talk about its simplicity of design, but when we go back and we look at the tabernacle, which was the precursor for the temple. The tabernacle was meant to be mobile for the people of God, because when they came from Egypt and they travel into the promised land eventually, they've got this tabernacle that they take with them. And that is where they offer their sacrifices and where they have their place of meeting and all this stuff. And but it's mobile. Okay, once the kingdom is established through David, David wants to build the temple, but God doesn't allow that. He allows Solomon to build it. David gathers all the materials, or a lot of the materials for this task, but he is not allowed to build the temple. But what David does is he establishes the kingdom, remember? He goes out, he fights all the wars, and he basically builds a kingdom through God. And once that is settled, it reaches its peak. That's the temple. The building and the construction of the temple and the grandeur thereof is the peak of the society. What this represents here is that first, when we talk about the tabernacle and the first laver that they built, you guys know what a laver is? It's a big washbowl. Okay? And in this case, it was the original laver that was in the tabernacle was made out of bronze, but it was bronze that was taken from the mirrors that had been taken out. They despoiled Egypt when they left Egypt, and the serving maids had taken bronze mirrors, because back then they didn't have the mirrors like we have, so they used polished bronze to be able to see themselves, their reflection. Okay, so they took a bunch of these mirrors that the maidens had that were the serving maids, and they melted those. People donated those mirrors, and they made the first laver out of that material. That's what God told them to do. He didn't tell them about any kind of fancy design or anything like that. It was basically a place where the priests could wash their hands and their feet before they entered in to make the sacrifice in the inner area there, when they approached the altar. Okay? So they had to be clean. There's this idea of cleanness that's going on here. I mean, the guy could have bathed before he came in, right? Somewhere else, but the priest could have. But when he comes to make the sacrifice, he has to wash his hands and feet. It is commanded. Now, there's some question about what the design of this thing might look like. It could have been a big bowl with water in it, and a lower one for their feet. Because there's pictures, you'll see different renditions of this idea of what a laver looked like. But basically, just understand, it was not a grand design by any means. It was meant to be able to wash off not only the priests, but they had to wash the stuff that they were going to sacrifice as well. In other words, after they cut the animal up, they drained the blood, they washed it, and then they burned it on the offering. Okay? So, there's a process here. But the laver is in position so that when you wash off, the next place you go, let's say this would be the altar, which where you're going to make the offering, is in, you're going to pass the laver, and you're going to end up at the altar. And the altar was a little bigger and a little bit grander than the laver in the tabernacle, but everything was built to be transported. So it wasn't massively large. Okay? Now, when you get to the description of Solomon's temple, it is the complete opposite of the simplicity of the mobile tabernacle. It becomes, it's a big building, it's solid stone, it's got bronze pillars, It has a laver that I'm going to read a description of that is just absolutely incredible. And the altar behind it, is even going to be more so. But the laver, if you were to approach coming into the tabernacle or the temple, it would be the last thing you would see before you would enter the room of the altar. Okay? So what I'm going for here is I want you to understand a little bit of imagery. Because, God does things, these things are set up for a purpose and a reason in the scripture. Sometimes it eludes us. So I want you to think of the Bible this way. Think of it as a puzzle. And it's got all these pieces. And it's not just a simple little puzzle with like we did with like really little kids, where you had like 10 pieces and you could like slap it together and be like, ah. No, this one's got thousands and thousands of pieces, and some of them don't seem like they're significant or important, but they actually serve a purpose. Because I know in the church, often sometimes we spend, I think, too much time in the New Testament, and we are masters of that because that's what relates to us in a sense, but everything in the Old Testament points to Jesus. In some way, shape, or form, eventually it comes around and it points to Christ and the coming of the Christ. If you can look hard enough and long enough, sometimes it takes a little bit of thinking. Okay, so you think, what on earth does this labor and the temple have to do with Jesus? Everything comes from that and points to Christ eventually. You'll see it, if I can get to it. I'll run out of time. All right. So, we've got this simple labor. And now we're going to read about another one. Okay, now if you were in Bible class last couple of weeks, then you have already read this passage. And we've already discussed quite a bit about it, but I want to come back to it. And I want to talk to you about this. Because we've got people in here that weren't here for Bible class. All right? So, if you'll turn in 1 Kings chapter 7. Starting in verse 23. I'll give you a minute to get there. Verse 23. He made a sea, this is Hiram. Now he made a sea of cast metal, 10 cubits, from brim to brim, circular in form, and its height was 5 cubits and 30 cubits in circumference. Now, if you really want to get mathematical about this, this comes back to pi, but only when you add the hand width in on each side. There's some really cool numerical stuff in the Hebrew there that also comes to add up to 3.1416, da 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 da. Just one of those little sidebars, for us math guys. We'll throw that in there. Now he made this, and under its brim the gourds went around encircling it. Now some of your versions might say lilies, and it's also made out of bronze. So if it says cast metal, it's talking about bronze. Under the brim the gourds went around encircling it 10 to a cubit, completely surrounding the sea. The gourds were in 2 rows, cast with the rest, and it stood on 12 oxen. Get this, 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, 3 facing east. And the sea was set on top of them. And their rear parts turned inwards. And it was a handbreadth thick. You know how we measure horses by hand? The handbreadth thick. And its brim was made like the brim of a cup, as a lily blossom. And it took hold, and it could hold 2,000 baths. I'm not going to go into how much a bath is, but it's just a lot of water. Okay? Think of something really massive, just so you can understand how big the ox were, or the bulls. They are life-size. They are huge. They are big. And they are meant to look powerful. They are also extremely heavy because they are made out of solid bronze. Okay? And they face 3 to the north, 3 to the south, 3 to the east, 3 to the west. Orientated with the 4 corners of the world, symbolizing facing outward. They represent the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel, when they gathered around the tabernacle, would be 3 on each side. And it's all set up that they did it a certain way. It's all in Nehemiah. Is it Nehemiah or Numbers? Numbers. Thank you. Sorry, going to the wrong guy. In one of those Bible books that starts with an N. All right. So we know that this is representative of something. It's also the temple is orientated a certain way too, east to west. This is no accident. Okay, this is one of those subtle things that's in Scripture that's like, hey, somebody is really thinking this through. Now, the new laver is big. It's massive. It's got this design with the lily opening up towards heaven. Some people say it's pointing to God. You got the 12 tribes that are represented and the Levite pointing to God. Okay? The ox is also the animal that is at the tippy top of the sacrifice scale. You can go look that up. They had different things they could sacrifice depending on your financial ability and whatnot. And there is a whole set of rules in there. You go read Leviticus. It is, it's a chore. But they had this whole set of rules. Why don't we know those rules? Well, they don't really apply to us anymore, do they? But they apply in the Old Testament. They apply to these Levites, okay? Now, the altar is going to be even more magnificent. I'm not going to go into the description of that so much because I want to talk to you about what happens to this laver, this big laver, because there's some things that's going to go on in the temple, and some things are going to happen, okay? Solomon builds this thing. It is a symbol of his nation's accomplishment, okay? They have established their kingdom. Their God, with David, that they have reached their peak. They're not at war with anyone, which is why they can build the temple and put the resources into the temple. So they have this very powerful symbol. But it is also meant to reflect their relationship with God. This is where they come to worship. This is where they come to make their sacrifices to get the absolution of their sins. Okay? This is a huge thing. It's very important. And it's permanent. You'll find out later that there's a reason why some of this might have been as big as it was and as heavy as it was. But we'll get to that. I'm trying not to steal too many points. So you get the idea of the grandeur. Now, when you come into the temple and you see what Solomon has built, there's not only this laver, but there's 10 other small ones. The 10 small ones will be used to wash the animals, the animal parts for the sacrifice. And the big laver, which can't be reached at the top, by the way, if you look at the size of this thing, so the water probably came out of the mouths of the oxen. And they had a way of turning it on and off so they could do that and wash their feet down below. They still had to wash their hands and feet. They now have a really grand place to do it. And I want to ask you a question. Do you think that if you were in this time and place, that this would help you remember who delivered you from Egypt? By the way, the water in the bowl and the oxen passing underneath, some people will say that that is reminiscent of passing through the Red Sea. Yes, it ties in with baptism. If you go to Romans chapter 1, verses 6 and other places in the Bible where, people are immersed and come out, there's a whole usage of water for purification. And the idea of purification, of washing off and being clean. Okay? So, They come in, now they'll see this, and the priest, the last thing they're gonna see is this big thing when they wash off, and then they're gonna go offer the sacrifice. But the whole thing is really supposed to point to God and their Lord and their deliverer. So I want to ask you a question. How is it they continually end up going and offering to other idols in other places and worshiping other gods? Well, that whole story in the Old Testament, if you read it, is this back and forth between, they go worship other gods and they get punished, and then they come back and they go and they worship other gods, and it's this yo-yo effect. Why does that happen? Let me ask you this, why do you sin? Why do I sin? Why do we have a church that has pews instead of just regular seats? Somebody influenced the decision. Now, it may not be a harmful thing, but I'm just saying, there's a reason. It may have been practicality, and nowadays we're like, well, we take the pews out of the church, we would have more room for chairs, we could do more activities. Some people would be like, you're not removing that. That's been there since my granddaddy was here. That's the way we worship. Let me ask you this, how big does your house have to be that you live in? You got an idea of what kind of house you want to have if you don't own a house? What would you have in it? Would it be small? Or would it be what my wife and I used to joke, these things we call starter palaces? You know? Because see, we're poor. No, I tell you why I bought my house. There's a river 300 feet below my house. I go out there, I look, the geese are out there, and it is a beautiful view. I bought that house without ever seeing the house itself. I saw the view of the backyard and I was sold. The price was right and I was like, yep. Why do I want that? Because it's pretty, because it's nice, peaceful. I wanted a place to raise a family. And this was my idea of what I needed for that. But let me ask you something. How much is the world affecting my point of view? And I'm aware of how much the world is affecting my point of view, because it does. Do I really need running water inside the house? There are people been living for centuries without it. You go to third world countries, they don't have indoor plumbing, guys. They live in little shacks. Or not even that. Sometimes they live a little better, but they don't. They would look at my house right now and they would say, wow. You mean, you can use the bathroom in here. And, you know, there's just things that we take for granted that are such a blessing. I mean, how did I end up with a cup like this? I wanted my coffee to stay hot, right? Because I like my coffee. Well, how did I get to liking coffee so well? Well, I started drinking it, but what really influenced me? Was there somebody, some way, somehow it looked appealing to me, and now it's a cultural thing. I remember when coffee wasn't that popular. It was that sludge they served in truck stops. And the truckers needed it to keep going. It was not about the flavor. And now we got, it's like Baskin Robbins, 31 flavors. Anything you want. What kind of syrup you want in there? How did we get there? It's not a bad thing to have, but how did we get there? How did it become so important for me to buy that coffee rather than save money for my child's college fund? Because some people are doing that, guys. You realize all that money you spend on that? By the time your child's born, if you just, instead of buying that thing, went over to the piggy bank and stuffed it in there, you would have more than enough. At least for the first 2 weeks. College has gotten expensive, so you might need to put a little more back. But, and why did the college education become so important? Because society has dictated it. Understand, society is making the rules, and it is influencing us. There's a guy named Ahaz. You can look him up. I'm going to run short on time if I start reading all this, so I'm going to kind of paraphrase. Ahaz, in 2 Chronicles chapter 28, he's going to come to power when he's like 20 years old, and he is going to not follow after the ways of the Lord. He's a bad king. He's one of those in the Old Testament that say he's a good king. He's on the bad king list. As a matter of fact, he's on the moron list. You know? Because what Ahaz does is, first thing he does is he loses a battle because there's been a civil war. You see, after Solomon, the kingdom gets divided. It didn't stay together very long. It lasted for David and for Solomon. And then gets split. So you have two kings. Okay? And Ahaz is one of those guys. And he's one of those guys that has the temple. Well, he gets defeated in battle by the other king. So rather than turn back to God and realize that his ways had gone astray, Ahaz's thinking is a little different. He goes to Assyria, to the Assyrian king, and he's going to try to get help from the Assyrian king. And while he's in Damascus, he's looking around and he sees a big laver of a different design than the one that's in the temple, and he likes that one. And he likes the gods that they offer to. And so basically what he does is he doesn't really have a relationship with the Lord. He had already been offering sacrifices in other places. So what he does is he comes back and he tells the priest, I want this design like this bowl in Damascus. I saw something that's really cool and I want to put this in the temple. It won't hurt anything. And then he takes the laborers in the temple and he basically takes them out. He takes the smaller ones and he takes the big one and he takes it off the pedestal of the bulls and he has it set aside on the floor over here somewhere, and he puts his bowl up. Okay? Now why does he do this? Well, I'm going to explain this. We talked about this a little bit in Bible class. His mindset is like this. Back in the ancient days, if you lost a battle to another king or another country or whatever, he would say that his God was stronger than my God. So I need a God that's stronger than his. So that's what he went out looking for. He felt like his God was not strong enough. So he said, I'll go out and I'll get a God over here from the Assyrians. So because they got good gods over there, they're conquering the world. So I'll use one of theirs. And that's what he does. So he puts that in the temple. He basically defiles the temple. And there's not going to be sacrifices offered in the temple. That's going to go on for about 16 years if the temple falls out of use. Okay? The temple falls out of use, and Ahaz gets defeated. Shocker. In the next battle, he ends up getting defeated again. And then he's going to have a son who's going to come into power after a couple of other guys. So he's a guy named Hezekiah. The first thing Hezekiah does is, guess what? You have this really bad dad, but somehow this good son comes out of it. And the first thing Hezekiah does is he restores the temple. And he starts offering sacrifices again. And things improve for a little while, but then again, there's the Babylonians are going to come, and they're going to take everything out of the temple. Okay, so I'm not going to go, there's this back and forth with the temple is what I'm getting at. So try to bear with me for just a couple more minutes here. If I can get myself around this. I had a little trouble with this morning because I had a lot that I wanted to say or to put together, and it's a lot to think about. You had this beautiful place that is symbolic of the deliverance from Egypt. It's got all this wonderful symbolism in there that is a reminder to the priests who are in there and also to the people who are aware of it. And the sacrifices are to help them remember who God is and what God has done for them. Okay? Now, when they get a bad king, it's one of those things, it seems like the temple kind of falls apart. doesn't get treated right. They don't remember. Over time, they forget. They get influenced by their thinking and what society is really pressuring them to do. Do you feel pressured? You do. You might not realize you're pressured to behave or think a certain way or accept certain things that are not true. But we're pressured for that. But I want you to remember something. That passage that Brayden read this morning. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 19 and 20. First Corinthians chapter 6, verses 19 and 20. I can find it. I got to pull on the right bookmark. Actually, I'm going to back up to verse 18. Actually, 17. Let's start at 17. Sorry. But the one who joins himself to the Lord is one spirit with him. Flee immorality. Every other sin that man commits outside the body is outside the body, but the immoral sins is against his own body. Or do you not know that the body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, who you have from God, and that you are not your own? For you have been bought with a price. Therefore, glorify God in your body. What does that mean? You see that temple that they weren't taking care of? If you don't take care of the temple, then it becomes a mess. If you bring a mess into the temple, then you've got a mess in the temple, right? If I am allowing myself to experience immorality or be around immorality or tolerate immorality, then I am going to have problems within myself if I bring that into myself. Now, where he's talking about not tolerating immorality is he's talking about not tolerating immorality amongst Christians. The people outside of Christianity are not what he's talking about. Those are the people we're trying to win. But we do not tolerate immorality amongst ourselves. Some people get a little backwards on that. See, we got to love. And we got to show love to people and show love to each other. But if Andy over here is got immorality in his life and I know about it, then I need to confront that. If I have it in my life, I need to get it out. Because my body is now the temple. What happened to the temple of the Old Testament? In AD 70, guys, the Romans flattened it. They took everything out of it. It's gone. It's no longer there. The Old Testament was fulfilled through the death of Christ Jesus. Now, I'm not going to go into all of that detail, but if you want to ask me afterwards, I can tell you all about it. But right now, we're running short on time. This has taken me a bit longer than what I was hoping. I chased too many rabbits. At about that. I'm a rabbit chaser. But anyways, so when we think about our body and we think about how we behave, what I was trying to get at is with the Israelites and with us, we are the same. Guys, we're immersed in a world that is influencing us. And as Christians, we have to become sensitive to that and try to remain sensitive to that, because it is affecting the way we think. It affects the way we raise our children and how we interact with each other and how we can win other people to the Lord. See, if I can understand of myself and what I need to understand about myself, and I understand other people, then I can then reach out to those other people in a way that will work. You see, sometimes our old ways, what worked in the 1920s doesn't necessarily appeal these days. Now, do I have to have a big screen projector and a 3D image, whatever, people are doing? No, I don't have to have that, but what I have to have is the truth, but I have to be able to present it. I have to be willing to get out there and do it, and I have to be willing to step out of my comfort zone like I was when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, and some mean old man drugged me out. I was afraid to say no to him. I didn't know what was going to happen in my history grade. So, what do you do? Am I going to say no to him? No. So anyway, guys, the point here was the temple was grand and was this nice thing, that your body, your temple inside your body, this temple is like epically better. Because you see, I don't have to worry about going to that place and having to make that sacrifice. The sacrifice has already been made. That love offering that God made with his son, that we symbolize, and that we take the Lord's Supper in remembrance of, man, that is powerful. That is the sign that God, boy, he just loves us more than all believers. That's powerful. And when I remember that, that actually helps me keep this temple the way I want to keep it, because if I can put that and remember that at the foremost of my thoughts, then I behave and act better with the people around me. And honestly, they will see something different. They'll wonder, what does he have? But you see, if they can't see your temple, and yours just looks like theirs, then you ain't no different. They gotta be able to see the difference in you and in me. So it didn't matter what labor they were washing in. What mattered was who they were and who they became before God. Anyway, if you have any kind of needs this morning, you need the prayers of the church for anything, or if you need any kind of assistance, if you're not saved and you want to know how to be saved, come forward while we stand and sing. Who at the door is standing, patiently drawing near, entrance within demanding, whose is the voice I hear? Sweetly the tones are falling, open the door for me. If thou wilt heed my calling, I will abide with thee. Lord of my heart, I hasten, thee will I open wide. Though he rebuke and chasten, he shall with me abide. Sweetly the tones are falling, open the door for me. If thou wilt heed my calling, I will abide with thee.
Brother Smith, thank you. Seemed like you couldn't wrap your head around that, because that probably could be made into a series of songs. There was a lot there. Thanks a lot. To our visitors, you are our honored guests. We welcome you back each and every time you have the opportunity to worship with us here. We invite you to stay again at the potluck. It'll be over in the garage. And then we'll have our afternoon or devotional service thereafter. So welcome you to come and break bread with us. Get to know us a little better. We're just one big family. Are there any announcements that need to be made before we close? Who has the close to prayer? Brother Gabe, would you dismiss us in prayer, please?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning, grateful for the opportunity to be before you. Thankful for all the many blessings that you have so abundantly bestowed upon each and every one of us, Father. None greater than the gift of your salvation, which we find in through your precious Son, Jesus Christ. Father, we're thankful for the opportunity to be here today amongst fellow Christians in the same mindset, Father, that offer you worship in spirit and truth, Father. We pray and hope that all that we've done today, Father God, is pleasing to you in the manner in which you can well please. We're just so grateful and thankful for all that you do for each and every one of us, individually as well as collectively, Father. And we just pray that you continue to bless this congregation, Father. Bless our efforts in serving you, and bless our efforts to continue to be pushers of men and extend the borders of your kingdom here on Father, we pray that, you would be with us and forgive us of our sins, Father God, when we fall short of your glory as we often do. We pray that, you would continue to strengthen us through your Spirit, through the Holy Spirit, that you would place us on the straight and narrow path of righteousness. We pray that, you would be with those also, Father God, that have decided to be here this morning, and not able to, those who are resting on beds of affliction, Father God, we pray that you would restore them to a full portion of life to be done. We also pray that you would be with those members that are traveling, Father. Pray that you would give them traveling grace and allow them to reach their destination safely and to return back to us at the next appointed time. Father, we also pray that, as we prepare to, partake of this meal, Father, that's been prepared for us, we pray that you will bless it to our reception, Father, and that you will bless the hands that prepared, Father. We pray that, all that we've done here today, again, is, we hope that it's pleasing unto you, Father, and we pray that all that we ask is in accordance with your will, and we pray that you let me do it in your precious Son, Jesus Christ.
For those that have been missing, I forgot to mention, AJ forgot to mention, Wednesday night, we're studying Jeremiah. Before we get involved with the teacher, there's a couple of things that the teacher said that he wanted us to have ready an answer for, the almond rod and the boiling pot. And he said, I'm going to call on you, you better have an answer. So Jeremiah, the first chapter. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Morning, Clint. How you doing?
Good, how you doing, Frank?
Good. Thank you. Good morning, Mrs. Good morning, Angelina. Give me a moment. Let me get outside. How you guys doing this morning? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for being here. I'll try to go back through a little bit of the comments. Here, let's see. I'm kind of torn. Good morning, Patricia. I'm kind of torn on Stein. Deborah Hendricks. Good morning. Charlene, Faith and Country. Good morning. Tell Mags I said hi. Dixie. Good morning. I think I caught all you guys now. The missus, of course. Yeah, I'm kind of caught between staying for afternoon luncheon and fellowship thereafter and getting online with you guys. Hold my live stream open. Talking to you all over some of the things that... here, let me do this. Talk over some of the things that we're starting to see. The horrific things that are occurring over in Ohio. Oh, there's just so much. There's just so much going on. I'm so hurt by it. Why so strongly? I don't know. Give me a second. I'm trying to regain composure, guys. Sorry. Yeah, I'm having a hard time with everything that's going on in the world right now. All I can do is keep praying. Aside from the fact that I'm going through some stuff right now myself, I had anticipated coming out. It's actually what I thought. This is the thought processes I was having. I was going to come out with this facade, cheerful, rah, 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 hello, hello, hello. And something else hit me beforehand. Yes. It's tough right now, guys. Life is not easy. If anybody ever says it is, I think they'd be blatantly lying. I was never told life was gonna be easy. Never expected it to be. I also didn't expect to be going through the trials that I personally am personally experiencing today. I wanted to come out and talk about Asbury University. I don't know if all of you have been keeping up with that. There's a huge revival going on down in Kentucky. They've also got it over in, I believe it's League University or college in Tennessee. I'm to understand there's like 3 different locations. We're looking at all these crazy derailments that are going on, all this insanity that's going on with our children, and these drag queen shows and all this incessant push on this evil double worshiping satanic mess that we're having to deal with. I didn't watch the Super Bowl, didn't need to. I had enough people telling me how it was a good thing that I didn't watch. I would just leave it at that. I quit watching that stuff a few years ago. I did watch a couple of games this year, watch the Cowboys play. I'm a Cowboys fan, always have been. Had my season tickets. I was a season ticket holder, for those of you that don't know. And I've pretty much given them up. I still wear their paraphernalia, but it's already bought and owned and paid for, so I guess there's no sense in giving up just about everything, right? Even though it seems like we have or are. I know when I've given up a bit of my life into this fight that we're having to experience, we're having to go through, we'll continue to go through it. You'll see all this stuff going on, train derailments. What will we have, like 5 or 6 here in the past 2 weeks? I can't even count them anymore. Shootings. Heard there was a shooting down in Georgia or Florida. 6 people were shot and killed. It's a shame what we're dealing with today in today's society. I don't want to use the term scary because I'm not scared. I know God's got this. For me. He's got me here. He's still got me. He still has me. I'll put it that way. I'm starting to grow pretty comfortable with the church here. And it's pretty cool. There's some nice people. I probably will go fellowship with them. I don't know. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary. 6 days that I've been involved in this fight, survival, whatever it is that we're going to be going through. TPC began for me March 4th, 2022, Breezewood, Pennsylvania. And I followed it. And to me, I'm still a part of it. Hey, Michael Russell, how you doing? One day at a time, you got that right. It's my apropos. I'm a recovering alcoholic, drug addict. Yes, I know, Angelina, and I thank you guys. Thank you guys profusely. Give me the courage to do this, to continue going on, do the right things in life, hopefully.
Oh,
Good
hello.
morning.
Oh, yes,
Good morning.
It's, I'm sorry.
How you doing?
Ken.
Oh,
Ken, your name?
Frank.
Frank. Okay,
Yes.
okay. Are you the one that has the,
We the people?
yes.
Yes, that's me.
I know that last week I said, cool.
It's on my windshield too.
All right, yeah, that's, I got a shirt like that. That's a good idea. That's a great idea, actually.
Yeah. Did you see my windshield?
Oh, wow, so cool. Very cool. I didn't notice the front. Now, I'm not for observing myself,
Right,
actually.
okay.
I was going to yesterday for this time for a lunch, whatever, right? And I noticed that right away. I said, that was definitely cool.
I think the first couple of times I came to church here, I had my flags hanging on the back because I got a couple of flags I can prop in the back
Oh, okay,
on my
okay.
tailgate. I haven't worn them for a while because we kind of trying to stay a little bit incognito. I was affiliated with the People's Convoy and moved on to 1776 Restoration Movement.
Oh, well, actually, it's all presidents today, so I got a
Yes, very nice shirt.
That's
I love it.
for
Red, white, blue.
holidays, whatever,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Right, red, white, blue. You
Yeah,
can't beat
right,
it. Can't beat it. Can't beat the Americans wanting
Yeah,
red,
that's
white, and
funny.
blue.
I got a sign in front of my house, a stand that says America stand or what's America first, right?
Right.
But that's that's a great idea, though. I want to look. I'm going to do something like that for my. I like that. People.
I have a friend that can do this for us. Yeah, I have a friend that does these things.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Name's David Valentine. He's the one that did mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does
so.
he do it for a business or just for himself?
He does it for friends.
Oh,
He does it
okay,
for
right,
friends.
okay, right.
He does it for friends.
okay.
He did a lot of our vehicles. He did a lot of stickers for a lot of the vehicles that were involved with the convoys and stuff.
Oh,
When
okay.
we were with the People's Convoy and then 1776, he's part of that group. So yeah,
Okay.
we've been doing it almost. I was just telling. I'm live streaming right now. I started the live streaming with the convoy, and I was just talking with him, and yeah, we've come next Saturday, March 4th, will make a year that the People's Convoy came into town, into Hagerstown.
Oh.
Last year, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I went up to Breezewood, met him up there, and then drove back to Hagerstown with him, and I stayed with him down there for a while.
And you're
Texas Tag.
Texas.
Yeah.
Do you know Clint before that, or
No, I
he's
didn't.
Texas too? Eventually,
No,
I believe that's where it came from. I believe.
Yeah, I don't
I
know
think
anybody
so.
here. It was
Yes,
it was new
okay.
for me to come here. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know anybody when
Now,
I got here.
one day I do want. I've never been to Texas, but some of my plans, whatever, But
One day, right?
there's a lot of places I'd like to see, right?
Oh, my
but,
goodness. One day it may come to
Right.
fruition, right?
Right,
A bucket list
exactly.
item.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Mine was Alaska.
Exactly.
And I didn't make Alaska.
Well, I lived there for quite a while, actually, but that's,
Up in Alaska?
Actually, well, yeah, after high school, in the 70s, oil was big then.
Right,
very
right,
big, right?
yeah.
And to school, I was in Alaska,
Wow.
So I was there about, last sex was there for about 30, 31 years, and
Wow.
I came down to see Michelle down here, right? 2017, I believe. First time I left the state, actually, right? Came to see Michelle, found me. I kind of felt, I really felt love this state, right? So I came next year, and I said, okay, my house is sold. And I'm here.
And you
So
moved
I'm
here.
here for good. For
Cool.
good,
So you're here in West Virginia?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I had nothing anyway, last week. It was fine, but now time for a change.
31 years.
Time
Yeah,
for
that's a long
change,
time to be there, though.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing. I had a job there, right? I can't get up and just go,
Right.
I had a job. I had a job I liked. It was a good job, right? So, and I stuck there until I retired. That's just the way,
Hey, if it works, right?
Exactly.
Why change it?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Frank,
Ken,
have a good day.
nice meeting you. Yeah, you going to the lunch?
Well, no, that's my mom.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, have a good one then. We'll see you later. Okay, guys. Well, I don't know what to do. I don't know. how you guys feel about what's been going on with the derailments and the different things that have been transpiring around the country, the world. Thank you, Angelina. Hey, Dolly, how you doing? Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Or, well, I guess I don't get on here very often, do I? I keep praying for peace, guys. I'll ask you guys, oh my gosh, yes, it is sick. I'd like to ask you guys if you're the praying type, you know, maybe keep me in your prayers. I thought about going over there. I also thought about going down to Asbury University. Yeah. I wasn't too sure about going to Ohio. I've been, with the thought process that I've been having, I've been more drawn to go down to Asbury University and check that out. Yes, it's incredible, isn't it, Faith? It's incredible. We've been keeping up with it. Still got a few people that, you know, we're hanging out. And still, there's a plan unfolding. Have faith, the world is changing and evil is losing. We can continually pray for that without a doubt, Michael. We can continue to pray for that. Everybody continue to pray for that. We know that things need to change. We've been in this thing for a minute now. What's up?
Good to see you again, sir.
Good to see you. How you doing today?
I'm alive.
I hear you.
It's all great.
This is the guy that led singing this morning. You guys didn't get to hear much singing. I'll be over there in a little bit.
Yes, sir.
I started the biggest reason why I started right before the sermon was because somebody had said, one of the other men of the church had stated that I've been waiting all week to hear this sermon. He's got me all hyped up on it. So I was like, oh, well, maybe it's one that I need to go ahead and live today. So I decided to go ahead and live it. And yeah, so I think it was a pretty good sermon. Well, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to head over here, I guess, and hang out with the church family for a bit. Supply some food to my body. Not that I'm in need of any, believe me, I eat well. Matter of fact, FYI, we're having steaks tonight. I will say that out loud. I'll do the seasoning, and we'll cook them on an open flame. So I guess you could say they'll be flame broiled. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Angelina. Thank you, Faith and Country. All you guys are still saying those others. Angelina, was it you that was talking about J6? I'm not going to say funny that you said that today, because I've been getting this feeling to drive down there and spend some time just to go say hi to the people that are down there. I see Stormtroopers really being a trooper about it. He's give that man lots of credit. I appreciated him when he was coming onto my lives and supporting my channel. I go to his lives and give him a thumbs up for sure, though I don't, like I said, guys, I have a lot going on, mentally, emotionally, and thankful and grateful to God that I'm not dealing with things physically as well. I still feel like I'm in great health, good health, great health. I feel like I'm very healthy. God's got me covered in that part with I guess with my body. But mentally, yeah, I've been, and emotionally, seeing all this travesty going on and not being able to do anything about it, other than pray. And I guess that's my biggest accomplishment, is I continue to keep everybody in prayers all around, you guys, the family that I'm close with, and of course my church family here. continually keep everybody in my prayers. God knows this, guys, so I know I'm not lying about it, you know. It's funny how that works, right? I don't feel uncomfortable saying that out loud because I know that it's true as well as he does, and I can't be ashamed for that. What are you saying? Have a beautifully blessed day, Frankie. I'll keep you in my prayers. Steak, yay. Thank you, the missus. Sorry, guys, the glare on my glasses because I'm looking in the sun, as you can tell, well, basically. But I can barely see myself in the camera, much less read the text that's coming through, whatever you guys post something. But yeah, so I think I'm going to walk on over. Well, actually, could drive over, go park in the front yard. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna come back. I don't think I'm done talking. I think I'd like to speak with you guys, try to get some of your inputs. Maybe, I don't know. Sorry you guys got to see me this way. I love you guys. I'll see y'all later, all right? Bye.